We're recording. We are. This thing's on. Oh, of course it is. Hello and welcome to another episode of NextGen IT. I'm your host DJ with MAPSYS. I know I haven't done many of these videos lately, so I'm very happy to get back on the horse for 2022. Thanks to all of my rabid fans out there for all of the support. I do appreciate it. It is rather tough to make time to get these things done and out to all you. So happy to reconnect. So today I have a nice topic for you. I think we're going to be talking about the IBM Enterprise Storage updates for the first half of 2022. And I know some of you are thinking, gee, DJ, Enterprise Storage, really? That's kind of like a really, really boring thing, huh? I really think it's not. I think it's pretty great, really. You have lots of choices for Enterprise Storage out in the market, and a lot of them are good choices. But I really believe that the IBM choice is tops when it comes to technology and price. Really, it is pretty great. And let me show you why with some of the updates that they put into the product here in 2022. As you know, MAPSYS is a full-service IBM Enterprise Storage vendor. From purchasing, acquisitions, to installations and support. We can do it all. So happy to show you what IBM's up to. So let's get going. All right, I have a presentation in front of us here to update or to outline some of the updates I want to share with you. The FlashSystem update covering simplicity, performance, and data resilience solutions. I am, of course, DJ, the Lord Master Techno King of MAPSYS. Or maybe Mr. MAPSYS. One of the two. I don't know. Hopefully some of you just got that joke. If you didn't, see me after. All right, let's take a look here. What do we got? Let's go to the next page. All right, this is our agenda. What's new in 1Q 2022? A little bit about speeds and feeds, so you'll understand what some of the appliances that we have on offer here, what they feature for hardware, and I think a lot of you will find it pretty interesting. All right, what's new 1Q 22? All right, so. Last year, we had great success here at MAPSYS and indeed all of IBM selling the entry-level part of the product line. The FlashSystem 5200, which is a 12-bay NVMe 1U storage device, very popular with an amazing price point. And then, of course, the entry-level, very entry-level SaaS-based offerings of the FlashSystem 5015 and 5035. The rest of the product line remained unchanged for last year. But turn that crank, turn it, kerchonk! And we got this. We got 1Q22 new systems. So the mid-tier and the enterprise tier in the FlashSystem family have been refreshed with the FlashSystem 7300 and the new FlashSystem 9500 and 9500 are also some new SVC. Or for those who do not understand what an SVC is, it's a SAN volume controller. Think of it as a traffic cop for all of your SAN traffic in your entire enterprise. It's more than that, but that'll suffice for now. Let's continue on. Take a look at what we got here. Where's my mouse? There it is. Okay. So the first thing I want to talk about before we even get into the hardware is that IBM really does have, I think, a lead in the technology for the disk drives, right? All those other vendors that I could mention all use commodity disk from Samsung or Micron or whatever vendor they happen to use. They don't make their own disk, right? So that means there's a middleman and markups and all that stuff that comes into play. IBM, if you haven't heard, and let me be the first one to tell you, is now back into the disk drive business. Yeah, I know what a lot of you are probably saying. DJ, they sold their disk drive business when you were just right out of college, didn't they? You know, they went to Hitachi. And yes, you're right. They did sell that disk drive business, but now they're in a new one. Years ago, IBM bought a company called Texas Memory Systems that had a lot of IP, intellectual property, based around flash-type memory and flash-type devices. So they bought that for lots of different reasons, for the resiliency of some of the patents and IP that comes with it, and of course the speed and whatnot of all their designs. Okay, fast forward many years after, was it 8 maybe, 9, 10 years after this, and we have that technology has morphed into a product called the Flash Core Module, the FCM. And in 2018, IBM came out with the first Flash Core Module in a 2.5-inch form factor that would fit into an NVMe type enclosure. All right, they were offered in various capacities, but the most interesting thing I think is not only did they have the very, very best reliability in the market of any NVMe device, but they offer 2-to-1 inline native hardware compression. Pretty great. You can't turn it off. It's in the data path. It is part of the design, and it does not slow down the design whatsoever. It injects, very marginal additional latency into the writes or reads of the device. So really, a pretty great technology. Fast forward. Where's my mouse again? I'm losing it. Fast forward to 2020 with the FlashCore Module 2, right? Some bigger capacities and an update to the initial FlashCore Module 1. And now I'm really excited to announce, because this kills, it just blows apart the value proposition here for those other guys, and it really puts it in IBM's court, I think, the FlashCore Module 3 technology. Again, same SLC QLC technology, same form factor and capacities for physical capacities before compression, but now it offers a native inline 3-to-1 compression. I mean, that is amazing. In the data path, that means for this device, if I were to propose this, most times I wouldn't use any software tricks that those other vendors would use. I would keep the software compression and the software deduplication off. Why? Because you just don't need it. The economies of scale and economies are here in this packaging and in this device and this technology, that you just don't need to bother with those technologies anymore. That means you don't need to bother with all the things that those technologies could do for you, meaning, or I should say not do for you, but do to you, right? Which means that, it could interject bad things in your workload, meaning slowdowns and whatnot, and then you have to take time out of your busy schedule to go debug it and figure out where the problem lies. Here, with this technology, we don't need to worry about it. All the compression happens inline in a specific ASIC, an application-specific integrated circuit that's packaged in the FlashCore Module 3. So pretty awesome. And the cool thing is it's available in all of the IBM products, the 5200, the 7300, and the 9500. So we've really had a great time with this kind of beating up on some of the competition, if I could say, with this type of technology, because it is so economical, right? If I could say that word. All right. So now that you understand that, let's move on here a little bit. So let's talk real quick about the 9500. I'm just going to go through these really, really fast here. The 9200 that we had before was a 2U device with 24 NVMe drive bays. The new one is a 4U device with 48 disk bays, as you can see here, with FlashCore Module 3 technology. The controllers are pretty beefy as well, with 4 24-core CPUs. That means it's 2 24-core. Let's try that again. 2 24-core CPUs per controller. So that's 48 CPUs per controller, with 1.5 terabytes of cache per controller. It's pretty beefy in a very small form factor. Here you can see the rear of the device. All these highlighted expansion card bays are for, well, exactly that, expansion cards, right? Interface cards. So to either add SAS cards for expansion capacity, or I/O cards like Fiber Channel or Rocky or iWarp cards, that kind of thing. So pretty nice. I like it. I'm going to just throw this up here. There is also another package called the 9500R. As most of you know, with IBM technology, it's not your typical active dual controller design that you see in a lot of other products. There's another vendor out there that does something very similar to this, and it's a big vendor. In fact, it's tied with IBM in units shipped per month, typically. And that this machine is really an advanced cluster. So every 2 controllers you could cluster with other controllers. And this one this 9500 is like the other ones in the product line, and you can cluster 4 of these guys together. You cluster them via some kind of communication protocol like Fiber Channel or the iSCSI protocol on the Ethernet side. So with that, you can really expand this pretty great in that sense. 4 FlashSystem 9500s. 16 total CPUs, 12 terabytes of cache, and 192 Fiber Channel ports. If you want 18 petabytes of capacity. If anyone wants to buy one of these, please give me a call. I will surely help you. But are they kidding? That's really huge. That's a massive capacity. So of course, with this 9500R, you're going to get fiber channel switching at the very, very top. And of course, I believe they're running NVMe over Fabric protocol on those fiber channel switches, which is, if you haven't heard of that, we should talk more about that. But I've talked about that in the past. If that's sort of the new hotness for 2021 and 2022. So, it's pretty great. But what I like probably more than 9500 is this 7300. It is uniquely capable. We're just pitching this everywhere we go. And I think it gets a lot of attention. It really does. So 24 NVMe drive slots, Flash Core Module 3, of course. Each controller has 20 cores, 20 CPU cores, and 768 gigabytes of cache. Right? It's of course with 2 controllers in this package here. Pretty aggressive. And then of course you have 3 I/O card slots in the back. So I might add a fiber channel / NVMe over Fabric card. I might add a Rocky card or a card for iSers over Ethernet, and then a SAS expansion card, so I can put in a bunch of SAS disk trays underneath this should I need more capacity on this single frame without doing clustering. So pretty great, and a big performance increase, 25% or so over the previous model. Now, I think a lot of that comes with the upgraded processors. In the previous machine, we had 8-core processors. This machine, we have 10 cores. So a lot of that performance increase most likely comes from that. So anyway, pretty great package. A lot of customers are really seeing the value out of this. SVC was updated. I'm not even going to talk about SVC much. I love the SVC. It's great, but it only plays in larger organizations. This is a really nice little chart because it talks about the commonalities of the FlashSystem family, at least in software. So, as you can see from the lowest to the highest end of these systems, VMware and container integration, multi-tenancy, meaning you have multiple tenants, right? 3-site data copies, Metro and Global Mirror, which are our remote copy or remote mirror replication settings, local and cloud snapshots. Cloud snapshots can be to Azure, to AWS, and to IBM Cloud. Volume mobility for non-disruptive data migration across flash systems and SVC. That's a lot to say, but I think it's self-explanatory. Easy tier, which is to tier data between NVMe to SAS tier to spinning disk tier, and even out the tape if you need to. Data migration from other arrays, including other vendor arrays, and of course IBM's real new hotness. Well, it's not that new anymore, but it's still very, very hot. The distributed RAID technology, either 1, 5, or 6. 6 is always the default for any of our designs. It allows you to distribute your spare capacity among the entire storage pool, which is great. So there's not a single spare disk sitting there. That means when a disk drive dies, that a rebuild takes minutes. It takes no time at all. And you get the complete capacity and performance of all the disks in the pool all the time, instead of wasting, a single spare or multiple spares in your storage pool. So pretty great. It also has the added benefit that if I wanted to add a single disk later on, I can, or 2 disks later on, or 3 disks later on, or how many disks I want to. I can really control my purchases that way, which for smaller shops is great. I have a customer in the South that is taking this to great effect and loves it. Anytime he's running out of space, he calls me up and says, I need to order 1 more disk, just 1 more. And that's what we do. So pretty great. There are other options as well. And these start, showing the stratification in the product line. Okay, so DRP software only. What that means is a I can't remember what DRP stands for. It's data reduction pool. Thank you. Oh my gosh, it just it just slipped my mind. Data reduction pool. There's 2 types of pools that you can use in IBM technology, and data reduction is the more advanced pool that allows you to do dedupe and whatnot. Anyway, data reduction only happens on software in the 5035. Well, the other machines have actually hardware that help you do the data reduction, very, very close to the CPU. Okay, hardware-assisted compression and deduplication. Clustering with multiple I/O groups, Hyperswap. Hyperswap is the industry's only and first guaranteed 100% uptime in writing from IBM for your storage, for all your enterprise storage needs. So that's pretty neat. If you have a real need for 100% guaranteed in writing uptime from your storage, this is the only game in town. No other storage vendor would ever write it down and give you that guarantee, but IBM does, and that's pretty neat. I've only done 2 or 3 of these in my entire career of 10 years selling this type of storage. So, as great as it is, it's just maybe not as popular. And then, of course, encryption. Encryption happens one of 2 ways: with a key server or with a USB key plugged into the back of the machine. Upon boot, it'll unlock your volumes. So it's a pretty great way of doing it, I think. And then, of course, moving up the product line, you see that starting with the 5200, NVMe, over Fabric, host connections. Again, that's the new hotness. So if you're looking for the new stuff, that's where it all is. We can externally virtualize competitive storage as well as IBM's own storage. Safeguarded flash copy, which we'll talk a little bit more about later, which is pretty great. It delivers immutable copies, so ransomware can't destroy your environment and your organization, take you down. We've had quite a bit of that lately in the market. FCMs, flash core modules, that's where that starts. And then storage class memory, which if you've never heard of storage class memory, guys, you're not alone. I think it's sort of a dead on arrival type of technology. I don't see many people using it at all. It's things like 3 Crosspoint from Intel and Micron, and there's a Samsung variant of it as well. Lower capacity drives, a lot of very high price. I just don't see the need for it really in most workloads. So unfortunately, we don't do a lot of sales of that. All right, so let's move on. So what's all this processing power enables? Well, with every turn of the crank, clunk, right? All that horsepower that is put into these machines allows you to do different things like replication and more flash copies and more safeguarded copies, which I think is all very, very good and very important. And for those customers doing, say, VDI workloads, I strongly recommend absolutely do a DR pool with deduplication. The system performs great. So the more horsepower for that, the better. So, hey, good slide, I suppose. That was me, by the way, posing for that picture. I don't know. Kidding. IBM NVMe Enterprise Storage. Okay, so this was just talking about a little bit about the capacities that we can realize with some of these systems. So with the 1U 5200 with just those 12 drives, we can get up to a petabyte of capacity. With the 7300, 2.2 petabyte of effective capacity. And then 4U 48 drives, 4.5 petabytes of effective capacity. And that's before you cluster these things together or add in SAS-based expansion drawers and that type of thing. So, I mean, it's pretty great. So let's move on here. Get a little bit of performance comparison here. I'd say that these are very, very low, these performance numbers. I mean, I've seen other numbers in other tests for comparison that are way above 1 million for the 7300. It really is a pretty amazing device. But perhaps the DR pool with deduplication turned on, that's probably not a bad number there. That really isn't. So, all right. This is talking about our how we provide service for these devices. So basic or advanced is just the service level. And then again, expert care is sort of the next version up from that. Premium is like you get your own guy that you call up and they take care of all your storage needs whatsoever. They do several times a year. They do code upgrades for you on the machines. It's really a hands-off approach to storage. Advanced is you're going to be when you call into a queue for support, you're going to be at the front of the queue. You're going to get right to a technician as fast as they possibly can. And then basic is really just your general warranty, really, for these for the expert care base base warranties. So let's move on here. A little bit more about the 9500, right? I think it's kind of neat to look at hardware, right? I'm a hardware nerd. I used to design hardware for a living with IBM, and while I did the nitty-gritty design, I never really got to see much about the packaging. So I've always been, of course, just really fascinated by how these engineers do the packaging. And for this particular one, this is how they do it. So what this means is each one of these drives here, the 2.5-inch form factor NVMe drives, they're Generation 4 PCIe, right? If you look in the back here, you have dual hot plug batteries, which in the previous machines, you had to take out the entire canister, shut it down. take out the battery, put in the new one, plug it back in, which of course is all done without any downtime, but it still makes, I think, most customers worried to take out a controller and have it power down, replace the batteries, put it back in. So this is much better because the batteries they're consumables, right? They die after however many years, 5, 6, 7 years, and need to be replaced. So there's that. You'll see the gigabit management ports, and you see the tech port right here, the technician port for doing various things that the technicians do. All right, let's move on here. The supported adapters here. I put this up because I just want to show you the various adapters that IBM supports, right? The 2-port 10, 25 gigabit iSCSI and iSer over Rocky, right? Rocky V2, which is like an RDMA engine, reverse DMA engine, or a remote DMA engine. So that just allows you to do writes to and from cache memory and disk drives without bothering the processor. And so it speeds up everything a lot. It's really the next generation of iSCSI, I think, right? A 2-port 10, 25 gig iSCSI and iSer over iWarp. Which protocol is going to win, iWarp or Rocky? I don't know. I mean, take your pick. I'd probably put my bet on Rocky because it sounds cooler, right? I'm the champion, Rocky. I don't know. iWarp, maybe not because it sounds like something from Star Trek, but who knows? We'll just have to wait and see. I'm sure somebody out there who really knows and understands these technologies might want to chime in and give us a little bit of an idea what's there. The only other thing I really wanted to bring your attention to is that we now are starting to ship a product with 64 gigabit SFPs for the fiber channel adapters, which enable 64 gigabit fiber, NVMe over fabrics as well. So that's excuse me. So that's pretty great for the future. There's some Brocade switches which we are now shipping with 64 gigabit optics. Do I see that becoming a thing anytime soon? Gosh, guys, to be quite honest, ladies and gentlemen, no, not really. I still have customers out there with 8 gigabit fiber channel that are still pretty happy with it and just barely upgrading that stuff now. So anyway, lots of adapter support here. All right. Check this out. 7300, my favorite. I love this guy. So great. Fits under your arm quite nicely. Carried around. I wouldn't recommend it. You won't want to carry around a couple $100,000 worth of stuff. You might drop it. So let's not do that. But you can see the adapters in the back. Adapter 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. We have 4 10 gigabit RJ45 iSCSI ports as well. You can see the power supplies. And I should also throw out to you folks, anything NVMe and above, 5200 and above, it only supports 240 volt or 208 volt power. So nothing single phase, 120 volt, that's not going to work. I almost sheepishly plugged in a 5200 in my office to my office power and would have probably destroyed the unit or at least been wondering why it didn't power on. So just something to throw out there. These machines do need a little bit more power than your average wall lamp or outlet, will provide. Okay, 7300 adapter options. The 64 gig does not make its debut here, but all the rest are available as you saw in the other one. I want to spend just a touch more time here talking to you about IBM Expert Care for storage. As you can see here, the basic and the advanced and the premium tiers. So I like this a lot as someone who sells and configures and works with you folks to understand your needs, because in the past, in order to provide you good higher levels, higher tiers of IBM service and support, we'd have to go through a completely different process doing it. Now I can order this all on the configuration of the product that we're shipping to you, instead of going to a separate process outside of it. So this is very, very streamlined for you, but it also allows you, the customer, to get more aggressive discounts on your storage warranties and maintenance that you order with the system, including additional years that just beyond the typical 3 years, so 3, 4, and 5 years, right on the config. So it's pretty great. So you can see the differences between the premium and the advanced tiers, right? So like for instance, the remote code upgrades I talked to you about earlier, and the dedicated technical assistant, the TA, right? And then the 30-minute severity 1/2 responses. So that's, I mean, for those folks who storage is their life, I mean, you want premium for sure, for sure. For a lot of the other customers I work with, I promise you advanced is really good enough for most anything you'll do. And, basic is exactly what it says, basic. It's when you don't need 24/7 coverage, you just need 9x5. No one ever chooses basic, by the way. So, all right, let's take a look what else we got to show you here. I thought this would be kind of fun. These are our storage expansions for the SaaS-based products, right? So you could put any one of these expansions on any of the machines I've showed you in the previous slides, right? The NVMe tier would live in the host controller head, and the SaaS controllers, or the SaaS expansions are on, just daisy chained off of this. There is a feature called functionality called Easy Tier that will smartly tier your data between the very ultra fast NVMe, just slightly slower SAS-based SSDs, or SAS-based spinning disks, or even large platters, and then of course even out the tape if you needed it, which is pretty unique in the industry. So these are the 3 different form factors you have. Pretty self-explanatory, right? And some of the mix of them that we can do with these form factors are shown here, right? So 7300 with, say, 4 of those 92 drives out there, that equals, right down here, you can see 392 drives total. But if you cluster 4 of these together, because remember, it's an advanced cluster design, not just a simple active dual controller design, you can get a whopping 1568 drives. So that's a lot in a single system image. So again, here's some other different enclosures that you can do, right? 2 of these guys, and a bunch of those, or 10 of the 24 drive units for a total of 1056 drives, or even 10 of the 12 drive units. So these are very big fat spinners for a total of 576 drives. So, very, very flexible in its configurations. 9500 scale up type of expansions. You can see what you can do there. So, a little bit different type of scaling here than the 7300, but still pretty great as well. Most of your needs on a 9500 will really be part of the NVMe tier, and you'll be buying that for speed and for all the things you buy it for. So it's pretty great. Drives. So. I already sort of spilled the beans on this. We're already talking about flash core memory, flash core module 3 memory here. So that's pretty great. We have 12 gigabit SAS drive options, right? SSDs, 10K support, or 10,000 RPM drives are supported on the 7200, 7300 devices. And even the storage class memory, which I've never sold, I've never seen anyone buy, I've never seen anyone even remotely interested in this, but you can have 12 of them per machine, which, let me tell you, if you're going to buy 12, it's like buying a Ferrari or 2. They're pretty expensive. So let's take a look at this. So scale out clustering here. This just means that we can cluster these. Which systems can we cluster together? You can see that the 5035 you can cluster 2 together. The lower end machine 5015 can't cluster any, and the 5200, 7200, 9500 you can cluster 4-way together to make a large single system image. So pretty great. I did want to mention about the licensing, because in the past folks have always asked me about licensing, and for the most part, the 7300, 9500 are completely all-inclusive licensing, and I think the 5200 is as well. I don't quite remember. My configuration specialist, Martha, she keeps us all honest. She's amazing. So I thank her all the time, every time we talk about configurations for customers. But yeah, so that's what the licensing looks like. SCU is, let's go back here real quick. SCU is the licensing for doing external virtualization. SCU stands for, I forget, System Control Unit or something like that. It's just a licensing model based on how many disk enclosures will be brought under management for the SVC. And then lastly, I really just want to talk to you about one more thing. And IBM has this concept of Cybervault. And there's lots of little things that Cybervault can do for you, but the big thing of Cybervault is this immutable copies of data. That is enabled by safeguarded flash copy. Or maybe I should say flash guarded safe copy. Yeah, flash guarded safe copy. Let's call that. Isn't that a tongue twister? But safeguarded flash copy really is one of those technologies that I think every customer that we are talking to will be using on this platform, and those other competitive platforms too, I'm sure will be using safeguarded flash copy as well. It really, or their own version of safeguarded flash copy, I should say, because they will have to compete with IBM on this eventually. Think of it this way: it's an immutable copy that you can create on a schedule with a nice GUI to create these flash copies, or snapshots as some people may know them, and to be able to restore from those snapshots and to do forensic analysis then on those snapshots if you were to get in a ransomware situation, that type of thing. Because typically ransomware folks, when they come in, they come in, they disguise themselves, they encrypt your backups, or they delete the Veeam server or whatever backup TSM, whatever server they have there. And then they slowly encrypt the rest of your environment. And then they flip a switch, and now you have to pay them a bunch of Bitcoin or something, right? Well, that's not great. So with this technology, as long as the attacker doesn't get the super user password on the storage device, whatever storage device happens to be, they cannot delete or change or do anything to these flash copies. They're completely immutable. So that's pretty great, right? I think a lot of you can see the benefit to that. It is no cost. It is built into Spectrum Virtualized. The cost comes from a small piece of software that gives you the GUI, very, very small cost, that will help you schedule these snapshots and help you manage them and delete the old ones and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, really it is free. I guess you could, if you know a bunch of command line coding or scripting, you could do all the scripting you want, but I highly recommend just spending a few bucks on the software to actually enable it and use it. So that's what this whole thing about safeguarded flash copy is. And I've been talking for a long time. I think that's just about it. That's all I really wanted to review with you folks. Payoff. The payoff is recovering from the primary array is just minutes or hours rather than days or weeks. And I think that is very important with some of the folks that we've been talking to lately, unfortunately for them. No names, but it's tough. Let's see. Oh, there is this one thing here. I'm not going to say much about it other than, hey, guess what? Azure is now supported with IBM safeguarded and remote copies and remote snapshotting. So in the past, I could snapshot to AWS and IBM Cloud. Now I can also snapshot to Azure. But the cool thing also is I can bring up a version of IBM Spectrum Virtualized. Spectrum Virtualized is a software that runs on all these appliances that we've been talking about. Because IBM is a leader in software-defined storage, by far. And as a leader, you can do cool things like this. You could bring up a version of Spectrum Virtualized of your FlashSystem 7300 in Azure, and then recover your snapshots to that version in Azure, and then present it to hosts. And you're off to the races. I mean, it's really pretty great in that sense. Lots of options. Now, as much as we've talked to customers about this and they really like the idea, I to be quite frank, I have no one using the remote snapshot capability as of yet. It's just not something that folks that I work with are doing. But it's there for you, and I think a lot of folks might find use for it in the future. All right. Securing your data, encryption, replication, multi-factor, more safeguarded flash copy stuff. I'm not going to talk much about that. And that, ladies and gentlemen, that was it. So I'm actually recording this video a little later at night. It's about 10 o'clock now. So with that, I'm probably going to go to bed. But listen, I really appreciate all you folks out there who've been encouraging me with these videos and whatnot. And I'll keep them going and show you what we're doing here at MAPSYS and all the ways we're making IT and enterprise architecture better for our customers and what we see on the horizon. I think the one the one plain commentary I can offer most people is that all of these vendors that folks listen to, whether it's IBM or HP or Nimble or Dell or whoever happens to be, they all have a vision for what enterprise architecture could be. But I think companies like mine, MAPSYS, and me being Mr. MAPSYS, help you, the customers, do is really understand what parts of those visions should you adopt, and are they right for you? And has anyone else adopted them, and did they work for them? Because you don't want to just jump on the bleeding edge all the time. Maybe the leading edge might be a little bit better for you. But that's for someone like me to help you folks out, and I'm happy to do it. I love it. I love this technology stuff. So I have some other videos planned for you here in the coming weeks. I think they'll be really interesting. We have the Power 10 announcement coming up here soon in the scale-out systems. That means the entry-level systems. So I'm really excited to talk to you more about Power 10. That is sort of my heritage. I got out of college and started designing power processors for IBM. So, that really very near and dear to my heart. So really looking forward to showing some of that. But there's a lot to talk about before we get to the Power 10 announcements. They're a couple of months off here at this point, and we should get up to speed with some other topics within the power, organization and hemisphere of computing. So with that, I'll give you back all the rest of your time today. Stay safe, everyone. I know COVID's out there still doing its thing, and I just wish everyone the very, very, very best. So, alrighty, take care. We'll see you in another episode of NextGen IT. Bye-bye now. Yeah, was that good? All right, thanks.